3.5 miles from the centre of Oxford lies the Farmore Reservoir, where you'll often find George Barker, trustee and instructor of the Oxford Sailing Club, messing about in boats.
The club we've got here is a school's sailing centre where we take young people and teach them how to sail. We're very fortunate, we have a great stretch of water, and so a lot of different groups come here.
With around 14 billion litres of water beneath them, the welfare of their young sailors is paramount.
For each group that goes out, there has to be a dedicated safety boat. When we haven't got the power boats, none of the young people can go sailing, because whilst there's wind in the sailing boat, we can't provide the safety cover. So it is absolutely crucial that we've got operational safety boats.
Which is difficult to do without an engine, and in the past they found themselves a target for thieves.
Unfortunately, we have had the engine stolen a couple of times before.
And motorboat engines don't come cheap.
The larger ones, typically to replace them new, sort of around £6,000. The smaller ones are a couple of thousand, £2,500. The Sailing Club members had to raise about £24,000 to replace all their engines, which in our sort of budget, it is very significant.
These highly priced engines are desirable to thieves who will stop at nothing to get what they want.
I mean, we've been fortunate. Some of the other sailing clubs which have just got the smaller boats have very carefully locked their engines to the back of the boats, and then have come and found that the whole back of the boat has been cut off, probably with a chainsaw or whatever, which means that the boat is written off as well.
With such high-value equipment, security at the club is crucial.
We then thought we needed to take more preventative measures. We had some more security cameras put in. We also, for the bigger engines on the shore, we chained those and padlocked those to the ground. And also we then had some tracking devices fitted into the engines so that we could monitor if they then move at unusual times. And that obviously is an indication that something's amiss.
Early one morning, the trackers were put to the test when thieves broke in and stole an outboard engine.
The Sailing Club and the reservoir is locked at night, so they've clearly cut through or ground through those, and then they've cut the padlocks and the bolts for the engines.
Marine investigator Simon Lofting has seen a trend in this kind of crime.
Outboard motors in relation to maritime property is a huge theft problem at the moment across the whole of Europe.
The crime wave is put down to organised gangs from abroad. Dealing in stolen outboard motors is a very lucrative business.
2 years ago we hit €96 million of loss just in outboard engines. It mainly consists of Eastern European crime groups. They will travel into the country, they will steal outboard engines to order. Another team will come in, take the engines and leave the UK within a couple of days. So it's extremely well organised. The value of the engines is extremely high. So if you're looking at, let's say for instance, 150 horsepower outboard engine, you could be paying anything between £20,000 and £25,000 per engine. And when you think that an outboard engine is only held on by 4 bolts essentially, you've got yourself a nice lump of money in your hand, which is equivalent possibly to 4 or 5 car thefts.
Thankfully, when the Sailing Club's engine was taken, the tracker did its job and sent out an alert. The tracking company picked up the signal and set about tracing the engine straight away.
First thing we do is request the unit to go into alarm. We send a text message to it to wake it up, to turn its radio beacon on, so that we can start the tracking and start to work out where the unit's moving to, if it's moving or if it's stationary, get an idea of where it's located.
When they have a position fix, they can pass on the details to one of their team of expert trackers.
We've got a network of finders across the UK and Ireland. All of them are ex-SAS or police or army, so they've got the skill sets required to do the kinds of work that's involved with tracking. And we make sure that they're able to respond straight away when the unit next talks to us.
The signal from the outboard engine was moving west away from Oxford.
We tracked it going down the A40 towards Gloucester. And once they've got the signal, they can then hone in on that and then get the assistance of the police if required to make a recovery and any arrests. We located it to an area in Bishop's Cleeve, sent our finder to the site. He quite quickly picked up a signal and identified a white transit van which had been hired from a rental company. The signal was coming from the back of the van.
But the finder wasn't alone. Plainclothes police were already there on stakeout waiting for the thieves to show up.
The police instructed us that they wanted us to pull back a bit and to observe the van to see if anyone appeared or to see if anything happened with the van.
They didn't have to wait long.
After a period of about 20 or 30 minutes, a car approached and dropped off two white males who were around the area of the van for a period of 5 to 10 minutes before they got into the van and drove off. The police gave chase along with our finder, who was in the police car at the time. And they ended up in a cul-de-sac.
There was no escape for the thieves. The police had them trapped and made 2 arrests. In the back of the van was a haul of 13 outboard engines.
When we heard that the engines had been found, absolutely amazed, because it had always been assumed that they immediately disappeared abroad. And yeah, so a fantastic result to get the engines back. It meant that we were then operating again probably within a week. We could have been out of action, notwithstanding having to spend a lot of money, for more than a month or so. From our point of view, it was sort of job done. We got them back so we can carry on operating. So that was a big relief.